Thank you, David. That was a lovely, lovely introduction. The Faber course has been canceled.
Really?
Yeah.
Never mind.
They put Faber's been doing. They put an enormous price point on this thing, and they're drawing from some very rich bourgeois dreamers in Paris, London, and Glasgow. But it's not playing in Canada. No one's paying $6,000 to study poetry with Karen and I. So they're going to come back next year with a more appealing tuition, I hope, because I lost a job. Faber, fuck him. That was a lovely introduction, Dave, and I want to thank Rod and everyone who is involved and possibly volunteering and helping to organize the reading series. And I love coming back to Ottawa, and I'm just realizing it's been a few years. It feels like I'm here too often, so I'm overwhelmed with this. I'm constitutionally feel like a bit itchy about poetry anyway, but in front of friends, I somehow am always overcome with the feeling that you were forced to be here, and if I just read one and let you leave, then we'll all have fun. So I'll try to stay up here for more than one poem. But it is lovely to read in front of friends. So thank you all for coming. I'm going to read from new work, because there's a new book that'll be out in the spring with Nancy called Methodist Hatchet. And Methodist Hatchet is a term from Outport, Newfoundland. I was born in Newfoundland. I have a kind of a problematic relationship with the place, but I came across this term in Outport, Newfoundland. The Anglicans and the Catholics had a whole repertoire of kind of derogatory, mocking terms that they had for the Wesleyans, the Methodists, because they were all a little bit loopy Bible bumpers, Bible thumpers. So a Methodist hatchet is a two-edged hatchet, or a two-faced, double-edged axe. So I'll read from that book. And this poem is called Autumn News from the Donkey Sanctuary. And there's a donkey sanctuary just outside Toronto, and I think it's only $50, you can adopt a donkey, adopt the well-being of a donkey for a year. And so we did this for a friend for her birthday. And once you've done it, then they start sending you, as everyone does, they send you literature, right? So you start getting the newsletter from the Donkey Sanctuary. So this is the autumn news from the Donkey Sanctuary. And I was thinking about something that Hannah Arendt said, and I'm paraphrasing, but she said something about the 20th century. Of all the things we became very, very good at in the 20th century, we perfected the camps. Autumn News from the Donkey Sanctuary. Cargo has let down her hair a little and stopped pushing Pliny the Elder on the volunteer labor. During summer it was all Pliny the Elder, Pliny the Elder, Pliny the... She'd cease only for Scotch thistle, stale Cheerios, or to reflect flitty cabbage moths back at themselves from the wet river stone of her good eye. Odin, as you already know, was birthed under the yew tree back in May, and has made friends with a crow who perches between his trumpet lily ears like bad language he's not meant to hear. His mother, Anu, the jennet with soft hooves from Killaloe, is healthy and never far from Loki or Odin. The perimeter fence, the ID chips like functional cysts slipped under the skin, the trompe-l'oeil plow and furrowed field, the Unficor feed bag and visiting hours. These things done for stateless donkeys, mules, and hinnies, done in love, in lieu of claims to purpose or rights, are done with your generous help, in your names. Enjoy the photo. Have a safe winter outside the enclosure. I don't know how to introduce this poem. This poem's called Light Sweet Crude, and I lived with a friend named Dan Bayar in Vancouver for a number of years, and he gave up poetry for music. Poor bastard. And now he records under the name Destroyer, and he's a really fantastic indie rocker. Light Sweet Crude. A return to when Destroyer curled quiet in a corner of that rented room, waiting for the goat-white walls to shake. In Prague, they hear his rubies as Gottwald's syphilitic blather, dancing in pumas as if medieval walls were fake. Oh, to be rid of the rash, the rye, the redux, the relentless interiority. No one occupies me like me, and no one makes me lonelier. Universal compliance in the achievement of collective goods is as much a fantasy as perfect competition. Tin is ubiquitous. If I were a tin mine, ugly, sweating into the riverhead, I'd look out on the world through the wheel hubs of articulated truck beds and admit a paucity of spirit. My hole in ore. My edges ring-road describing a spiral divisible from space. Spirosheet, nebulae. What's more, he's self-taught, giddy as Lautréamont, floating 4 feet above ground, running parallel to the unbuilt pipeline, singing, mine, baby, mine, baby, mine, baby, all of it is mine. And this poem, Caledonia, there was another land claims dispute, and they're not going away anytime soon. But you might remember this one, Caledonia is down in the area around Hamilton. And I guess I should say, I should thank I don't know who took the footage, but it was guerrilla journalism, the footage of the protests, the villagers' protests that caused the poem, Caledonia. Then we came out in numbers. As Canadians, we came out in numbers with flags. With flags aloft and hooting, we stepped out in anger and in numbers. In numbers, as Canadians, we came out drunk and threw rocks. We threw rocks and golf balls as our patience had come to its natural end. As Canadians, we threw rocks past our flags aloft at them. Having been finally angered enough, we came out at night with rocks. We'd been, as Canadians, infringed upon, we thought, with flags. So we threw rocks. Rocks and a few choice epithets and golf balls hooting. You don't live here, we're proud Canadians in anger with rocks, and without patience we appeared in numbers around barrel fires and spoke. Into megaphones at the OPP drunk, and then we'd had enough as Canadians. Citizens with flags and megaphones and our rights, and some of our children threw rocks at the very end of their young patience with flags and placards hooting. Our kids came out in numbers to stand in solidarity with us as Canadians, into megaphones demanding we throw rocks, and a few choice Canadians without access to that road as our only route through anger with flags aloft, alongside placards, and our kids angry to be blocked by them with special treatment, to be angered by rocks thrown in Canadian solidarity with megaphones, and our kids in numbers aloft in a wind over patience, our only route, you don't have to live near them as Canadians drunk with rocks. We came out in numbers at night as Canadians singing around barrel fires and marching. I'll save our poem in a minute, Dave. And this poem's a little more ridiculous. You've probably all seen this diagram when you're trying to get your head around Einstein's special relativity. Now, it's been around a long time. It's something that we should all know by heart, and I can't keep it in my head. And the diagram that they always use to help you understand is a picture of a guy standing on a train platform, boxcars going by at speed, and there's someone in the boxcar, and there's light photons bouncing back and forth, etc., etc. And they always say, now, it would appear to the man on the platform clearly that, etc., 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 and it's perfectly, but it doesn't work, it doesn't stay in my head. And so the last time I came across the diagram, I got fed up and started writing a poem in the voice of the guy on the platform. He's just not getting it. There's other things going on, but all the exclamation marks. I've always wanted to write a poem in the tradition of the Russian futurists or the Italian futurists with all the exclamation marks, a lot of yelling. It was called "To Inflame the Civic Temper," which is a William James quote. To inflame the civic temper. Hey, ass face in the hydroplane, nut vice in the Prius, head cheese on the snowmobile, dick on the pontoon boat, hand job in the Humvee, perv squirt on the custom Ducati, smacked ass in the Harvester, nipple pincher in the El Camino, cock wipe in the recycling truck. Hey, motherfucker in the radio flyer, skank in the bathysphere, crotch rot in the big rig, douche face in the rattling dray, moron on your 10-speed, shit monkey in a swamp boat. Hey, rat fuck in your moon boots, monkey tart in the crab boat, cum liquor in the dirigible, goat's bag in the highway grader, ass rash in the gorgeous Vespa. Hey, toilet raider on the LRT, chicken rapist in the sailboat, stall creeper in the helicopter. Ahoy there! Ahoy! I said ahoy! Ahoy! Thank you. David and I we're going to share another poem. Told you this might get confusing, David, because they're printed on two sides of the... Oh, here we go. So this poem, it's called Coney Burns. Coney Burns was a person, a Canadian who existed, and he was did some time back in the 60s and 70s, but he was also an aspiring poet and corresponded with W.H. Auden. He wrote letters to Auden near the end of Auden's life, and so they had this conversation about justice and love and aesthetics and whatnot. But I can't find the letters. I don't know. I'm not good at research. They're probably at Princeton somewhere. But I stopped looking and just wrote a poem in the voice of there's a slight narration, and then the voice of Coney Burns takes over. And so David's going to narrate, and then I'll speak Coney's part.
I'm the narration. Coney Burns. While simmering through 2 less a day in Mimico, Millhaven, and Kingston for theft over a grand assault and possession, Burns found a pen pal in the late period Auden, who'd himself recently lost Coleman and was considering proposing to Hannah Arendt, happily married in her rent-controlled apartment. Coney had been privately stewing since the fiasco in Orangeville over notions of justice, love, the death drive, and theories of structural disequilibrium. So enrolled all he had going into wandering, spectral, ill-spelled letters composed near the stainless steel ensuite bowl he was made nightly to scrub after reading his bowl, bowls, bellow, even belloc, under the porcelain glow of that partial plate, seen through his window's grillwork and known in its Italianate form to Gramsci, Negri, Ovid, in a way and increasingly numbers in Romany.
And stooped over my day shifts, pushing the wheelie bins of soiled bedding. I've thought of that Belgian, Alice, pushing his block of white ice through Mexico City's bleached streets, his Chuck Taylors growing damp blooms around rubbery ankle crests. By mission's end in the video, 3 boys are seen looking up from prodding the weird, clear remnant pooling there on the Avenida, some lens grinder's mistake in the lake of its own disappearance, or the first instance of an invasive jellyfish species made landfall from the lung shadow of the Gulf's dead zone. They look up, across the unbridgeable chasm that keeps 2 now, worlds in their respective spheres, and flash hand signs for victory or peace. Then they show us their teeth. I mention all this in the spirit of shit that occurs to me, but also, of course, in response or addendum to comments you generously shared in your last on Christian theology's endgame, in your view, as the only transcendent, accessible, leveling force. There's this, too, though. Last Wednesday, some Cree kid near Gypsumville lifts his face from a bouquet of gasoline and meets the incoming darts of a taser gun. Picture trained deer flies attached to lightning bolts. Whiston, he ignited. 3rd degree over 2/3 of his body. We could make this mean something in view of something else, or admit it itself is the truth, and we both are summarily barred from it. Myself no more or less so than you. And I'll finish with a poem. Like I said earlier, a bit of a problematic relationship to Newfoundland, but the place is going through a hard time right now. I got a letter from a friend who very brilliantly said that Igor has been Stravinskying all over the province. So this goes out to the island. Western Bay. Morning desubstantiated by the quack science of fog. Moisture condensing around airborne granules of salt. It's cloud when we make out the silhouette of a duck. Spit, the air hits supersaturation and spits back. Gulls beyond the first veil, clown's horn lashed to the handlebars with stiff wire. Hermit thrush on the near fence post, beaded meniscus in a bleached syringe. Electroshock, duster, blot. One crow's drawn out ablutions. If Berkeley, as we'd hoped, misfigured the contents, and ideas are like other things, here, on a porcelain toadstool sprouted from power lines, is the sum of all past assertions on essence. Underfoot sponge, mystery mounds, moss ottomans, and everyone's editions shearing away from first editions. Wild rose, tin well cap, tar paper, iris in the winter wheat where a brook bogs out from up on the Cape's moonscape. Shrew and owl. Confectioner's table of black shale where the clapboard claps out. Tut's lost prick a wasp drips out of. Whoever it was ransacked the ossuary, built this hitching post doohickey for the clothesline's antipodal pulley. Scalded rack. What's the local term? Sippy cup in the shed near the chainsaw and widowed ore. Breaking the bakelite surface out there, a minky bends into the first, the only, race gate, 2 grebes of his Zen GS. On day 1 of the home fishery, Michael, over a platter of cod. The real is not mental, it's mental. DeLillo concurs. Nothing you can believe is not coming true. Description piles on description, fusing horizons under the chorus of named angels. Evenings at tranche of kids on bog bikes. Super 8 cola, the Dew Line, Sikorsky bolts, Purity crackers, WikiLeaks, and sea smoke. Thank you all for listening.